What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. I want to take a little bit of time to elaborate a little bit on how someone can gain 4 to 6 pounds of lean muscle tissue in a week. Okay, because we're starting to see people discussing it. I've had a few people actually email you about it. I really didn't know that there was a whole lot of interest in this because, again, when I learn these stuff, this is not new to me. And a lot of times I automatically think that everybody knows this stuff already. So it doesn't dawn on me to bring it up and talk about it because I figure it's old news. So back in 95, 94, I always go back in the day, but I can do my back in the day face. Back in 94, this is a book that I showed you guys, the Big Beyond Belief book, and this is the special feature that was in the Big Beyond Belief book. How to gain 4 pounds of muscle in 10 days. Now, as many of you are aware of, anytime you force the body to do something, it usually wants to go the opposite way and do reverse of what you want it to do. So therefore, it takes a lot of tricking. The carb cycling, you can pull the carbs out, but if you keep all the carbs and the fats out, your body's actually going to stop burning fat and start tearing down muscle tissue because it realizes, well, shit, there's nothing coming in, and I may need this fat to survive later on. So let's tear down the muscle tissue to make glucose, etc., etc. So your body finds ways to make things happen. Now, with the How to Gain 4 Pounds of Muscle in 10 Days, which is in this book, which basically they give you this big depletion workout, and what happens is when you're training the AM burst and the PM burst, you're doing 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 sets in the morning and 35 sets at night. So 70 sets per day. And you're basically, they cut the carbs, and then what they do is they reverse. They throw in all fruit. You eat all fruit for a certain phase of it, and they pull out all the protein. So they essentially load carbs and deplete protein. And apparently, with this program, I tried it before. It's just a very hard schedule to stick to. If you have a job or a life or you go to school or whatever, this thing, I mean, pretty much it lays up your whole day of what you're trying to do. And me and Donnie got probably, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of the way through it and just screwed the whole thing up. But I mean, I have seen people that have done it, and it worked. Now, by depleting your protein, the concept is that your body will overcompensate when you give it protein again by supercompensating, much like carb loading. Now, is there any merit to this? Why not? I mean, there's no studies done on it, but the Bulgarians and the Russians were doing it, and it worked every time when they tricked their bodies into doing this. So, whether or not we have a study in America doesn't mean it doesn't work. Doesn't mean the body doesn't work like that. There's lots of shit that we haven't studied, that survival mechanisms that very well could work like this. But I did see this work, and here's, I guess this would be partial story time, partial little back in the day. But when I was working for the sports nutritionist Daniel Chapter 1, which was in Warren, Rhode Island, World Sports Nutrition, biomolecular nutrition, that was their focus at the time. And it was, in fact, sports nutrition at the time, which now it's more into healing, like helping people with ailments like cancer and stuff like that using natural means. But Jim Figio and his wife Trish, Jim, I think, had originally developed the formula pre-post and AM/PM. These were pre-digested formulas that came in a powdered form. He had Mega Gainz, which was a weight gain formula, Rock Hard, which is like a metabolic activator, which is essentially beef protein, Beta 7, which was another pre-workout supplement, helped you with the pump. But the bottom line was Jim developed these products to take the place of food, because he knew that you couldn't get everything from the foods. Now, some people will say it's not true. I absolutely believe that because of the things that I've seen working with them that hands down convinced me for the rest of my life. And that's why I actually use a lot of supplements. Aside from the fact that a lot of people just can't eat all the food or have the time to make the food or have the time to eat the food, that's why the supplement industry exists nowadays. That's why protein powders are so commonplace and they sell so well, and meal replacements and stuff like that. I mean, of course the hormone boosters and stuff like that are going to sell because they're tricking people into buying them. But we would have people come into the Daniel Chapter 1. They do the whole workup on them, do their body fat testing, go through their diets, do everything with them. And the Daniel Chapter 1 system would break down how many grams of protein you needed per day, per meal, and it would actually be able to tell. They would project, okay, if you did this, this is what would happen. You would need roughly this much protein per day, per meal, per whatever to get this. Because let's say it's a pound of muscle tissue, so it's 3,500 calories of protein. You would need that much spread out throughout the week to gain that pound of muscle tissue. And if you came in and you hadn't gained that pound, it could actually tell you the deficit and say, this is how much you did gain, this is where your body fat's at, this is roughly what you lacked that week in protein to why you didn't gain the muscle. So, I mean, it was very fine-tuned, and stuff Jim was doing, it seemed so far out there at the time, but now it's, not so crazy. And we'd have people come in that would, be wrestlers. Now, wrestlers are notorious for training like animals, friggin' beasts. And they overtrain the shit out of themselves and suck down and restrict their calories, so they're very depleted. Now what Jim would do is, he wouldn't change their food, okay? He would say, okay, whatever you're eating right now, let's keep that. And he would plug all the foods in. And then what he would do is he would say, okay, now what we're going to do is you need to gain 6 pounds of muscle or whatever. But let's see how much you haven't gained already. You've probably already stimulated growth, but because you're restricting your calories and stuff, you're depleted. Right now your body's essentially like a sponge. It'll carb up, it'll protein up, it'll do all this shit if you gave it what it needs. But we don't know how much it needs. So let's see what you need first. When that levels out, then we can figure out where to go from there. So then he would basically give them like an AM PM drink, which was like 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And he would give them the pre-post drink, which was before, during, and after, like 3 scoops, 2 scoops, and 3 scoops. Just by adding those drinks in that had all your micronutrients, all your macronutrients in them, it increased the protein that was pre-digested already, easily digestible. The carb source was maltodextrin and had no fat in these products. You would watch these kids, natural kids, high school kids, college, whatever, getting bigger and stronger within a week's time. Now, some people say, well, they carved up. The carbohydrates didn't change, okay? Because the AMPM had like 15 grams of carbs that were in there. And what Jim would do is say, okay, let's take the 15 grams that are here, let's take that out of the food over here. So he wouldn't start giving a whole bunch of food. He would swap the carbs out for what was in the drinks out of the food so that the carbs stayed the same. The protein did increase almost every time because as he was adding the drinks, there was 30 grams of protein per serving. So then all of a sudden their protein went up and their fats were the same. Now they would drink about the same amount of water. Now they were technically drinking the same amount of, they were drinking more water because they were drinking more of these shakes. But the bottom line is when you go to bed at the end of the night, you piss that out throughout the night. Your body should process and get rid of that water. So when you wake up in the morning, if you haven't eaten in 8 or 9 hours, your body should still be the same. It should still be water-wise. It shouldn't be retaining any water because you're not taking any extra carbs, no creatine. They didn't even have creatine back then. So it would maintain the body weight. So what was increasing was their lean body mass. And when they leveled off the lean body mass, now you can say, okay, now we'll stimulate the growth with the training and then feed the body, increase the carbs here, the protein here. And these kids would slowly make gains. Or if they wanted to gain a lot of weight for football, they said, I don't care if it's muscle, I don't care if it's fat, I need to just have a weight. He would add something like the Mega Gainz in after they leveled out. You would see their weight still go up. And these are natural kids. Now, did they make a huge jump in the beginning? Yes, and that's because their body was depleted, okay? So they depleted their body of proteins, breaking down muscle tissue. They're catabolic all the time. And by adding these certain shakes in during the day and during the workouts, it threw their body back at the anabolism to where it took off and said, okay, I've been doing all this work, I've been doing muscle work, okay, now I'm where I should be. And that happened within a week or two of starting the program. So you see, it can be done. It doesn't mean you're stimulating new growth, but you can absolutely put on that 4 to 6, even 10 pounds of lean muscle mass in 2 weeks if your body's depleted. And that's where it comes from. That's where this 4 pounds of 4 pounds of muscle in 10 days comes from, because they deplete the shit out of your body to where it bounces back and springs back in the opposite direction and surpasses where you started. bioctraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below. www.bioctraining.com is the blog, and we're out.